Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for watching live if you're watching now, or you might be watching the replay if you're watching now, and I appreciate that as well. I am here today. I'm Sam Kimberly. I'm the founder of Creative Life Scholars, and I'm here today with Heather Boddy. Is that how you pronounce your last name? Okay.
Yes.
And she is the founder of Geeknasium, right?
Yep.
And you're also a cosplayer, which I think is so fascinating. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Heather, and thank you for joining us today.
Yay. I'm really happy and excited to be here. And if you need any examples of my cosplay, I can grab and show you, or you can check out my Instagram.
Cool, yeah. I put the Facebook group for Geeknasium in the comments, like in the caption for this live.
Perfect.
So people can jump in there if they're interested, which I can't wait to get started and talking to you about this. So let's start real basic. What is cosplay? What does that even mean?
Okay, yeah, cosplay is actually relatively new for me too. I'm just gonna take off my glasses because there's a glare, but I can still see you. Cosplay is relatively new for me too. I found out about it maybe like 5 years ago. And the thing about cosplay is that it really just stands for costume play. So it's just short for like costume play. It's people getting dressed up in costume when it is not Halloween, when it is not whatever. And we are getting dressed up as characters that inspire us or characters that we enjoy. So that's basically the essentials of what cosplay is. It's just getting in costume when you are to play around in it, to just for fun, for your own fun of it. But it's become a community, and it's become its own sort of, insane base of support for people. And like there are just so many different pockets of the cosplay community too. Like I could talk to you about just my own experiences in it all day. But there are a lot of people who it helps with their mental health. There's a lot of people who it helps with their body image. There are a lot of cosplay gatekeepers who those are the cosplayers that like actually make money doing it and who actually look like the actors and like that kind of stuff. And, some people in the cosplay community are like, they kind of feel shunned by those people. So it's just like, it's a lot. Cosplay is a lot, but it's also really an awesome thing to do. And it's an awesome community to be a part of.
Wow. So that's already much more information than I knew. So like, where do you go? I know that there are conventions, but is there like, I don't even know the right question to ask, but do you see where I'm going?
I understand what you're saying. like what is the point of cosplay? Like, what do you do with it? There's a lot of things that you can do with cosplay, and I think that's another beautiful thing about it. So essentially, yes, going to conventions is why people get into cosplay, because people get to see it, and you kind of get to show off, and you get to be like, look at this cool thing I made, or look at how cool I look. And that's where I started with cosplay. A friend of mine came into town, and we were going to New York Comic Con, and she was like,
cool.
"Are we gonna cosplay?" And I was like, "I don't know what that means." So that's like how I discovered cosplay. Is like when we got tickets to New York Comic Con, and I had never been before. This was like, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I had never been before, but I was really excited to go. And that was when she was like, "Are we going to cosplay?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is." And then so what we did was we did a casual cosplay, which you can do. It's a thing. It's kind of like Disney bounding, if you've ever heard of that, where like at Disney, you're not allowed to dress up like the characters. So people do Disney bounding where it's just a hint of the character. So casual cosplay is kind of the same thing. So I did we did punk rock versions of She-Hulk and Captain Marvel. So I went as She-Hulk. She went as Captain Marvel. And I didn't paint myself green because I was not ready for that. I just did really like heavy green eyeshadow, put studs I already have a nose piercing, but like I put studs all in my face and like got a leather jacket and was like, "I'm punk rock She-Hulk." She was like, "I'm punk rock Captain Marvel." So that's the first cosplay I ever did. Like official cosplay. And the convention aspect of it, where people were like guessing who we were, and they'd be like, "Oh, are you this and this?" And we'd be like, "No, we're actually punk She-Hulk, and so a lot of more people knew who she was because she had the like Captain Marvel logo on. But that slowly evolved into me getting to know other cosplayers in the community. And I also have a podcast that's not active right now. And in that podcast, I would interview cosplayers about their body image and sort of be like, how does doing cosplay help your body image? And so through doing those things, I really got to be a part of the cosplay community really quickly. And these are people, we schedule our own photo shoots. Like we find a photographer and we're like, hey,
cool.
Like, and then we set a price like, oh, okay, we'll each pay the photographer $25 to take some pictures of us out at Central Park or like down at Coney Island or like somewhere around the city, and just like get photo shoots together. There's also like social gatherings. Like I know there are some cosplay groups that hold like bowling nights and things like that. Obviously all of this stuff has come to a pause because of COVID, but then the online community becomes a very supportive place, like Facebook groups. And I know a lot of cosplayers who were making like birthday videos and things like that for kids who are stuck inside on their birthdays.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I made a couple as Moana and as Wonder Woman, just sort of being like, happy birthday. I know it's a hard time to have a birthday, but just so you know, Wonder Woman's thinking about you, things like that.
That's so cute.
Yeah. So like a lot of cosplayers do like charity work, like going to hospitals and things like that. I know a cosplayer who gets dressed up as Spider-Man and is going to Black Lives Matter protests and like taking pictures with kids there. It's like, you know, cosplay can be it can serve whatever purpose, as long as you have like the right intentions with it. It's really cool.
That's really amazing. Yeah, no, and there's so much art involved with it. And even like you were just talking about the photography, like getting different elements like video and photography, and then of course the costume itself, which I mean, I guess to me it goes without saying, but maybe I should say it. Those costumes can be, I mean, they're really works of art. I mean, I've seen people that have put months, a year, like lots of time into their costumes that are just amazing, just amazing works of art that they wear on their bodies, which I just think is fascinating and beautiful.
Yeah, there are people who like spend, I want to say years, that might not be right, but there are people who spend so much time on their cosplays, and it is like, so there are some people who spend years building a cosplay, and that's what it is, like taking it out to the public to enjoy. It's almost like putting your art on display and saying like, hey, look at this thing that I made. And it's always like working on it can be a source of like, you know, like doing anything creative in general can really be a source of happiness. And it can really bring a lot of mental stability to whatever it is that you're going through, whether you're diving into the creativity as a form of escape, or you're using it as a coping mechanism, or you're diving into it to be like, I want to accomplish something. I want to feel accomplished. Like there's many different reasons why people dive into creativity, but it always ends with this feeling of satisfaction. And I think that's the coolest thing about having cosplay as a hobby, is because like someone like me, who I was actually an actor growing up. I went to a performing arts school and moved to New York City for acting. Like it's always hard for me to have a creative hobby because my career was creative. So it's like, what do I do for fun if everything I do for fun is also for work? Like, how do I balance this out?
Such a guess.
Yeah. And finding cosplay was actually the same exact time that I sort of found fitness. And these two things as a sort of escape for me, I was like, oh, wow, like I feel so much better doing this than I did acting at all. Like it was just like, this is definitely more like what my creative release that I need. And now I can do acting for fun and it's my hobby and whatever. And cosplay is also definitely still just a hobby. I will not be one of those people who you see at a convention who spent years on a cosplay, because I don't have the patience for that. But but all of that to say that like people use this as their creative escape, and having a creative hobby like cosplay is really just like, it just like brings you so much joy.
Yes. Yeah,
Like,
that's a huge thing in this group that I love talking about, because there's such a push right now for everyone to monetize their creativity. That's
yeah.
a huge conversation that people are having, and it's wonderful to see people doing that and creating their small businesses. And I love helping people with that. But also, there's a need for, even when you have a creative business, there's this need to do something creative that's just for you. And people get lost in that, and then you end up just as burnt out as you were when you were at your day job. So
Totally.
you have to be careful with that. You really have to treat your creativity, you have to care for it, and you have to, do things to nurture it, not just selling things and monetizing all the time. So I love that you approached it from that place of like having fun and just being you. And I think that's really, really awesome. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, what does someone do if they want to get started with cosplay? Like, how do you get started?
It's it starts with finding a character that you would like to cosplay. It starts with like coming from a place of genuinely connecting with a character or wanting to put them on display. And a lot of people who cosplay, they relate to the character in some way, or the character brings something out in them that they wish they had more of themselves. Like, one of the reasons that I started cosplaying She-Hulk is because she is the largest female superhero in the Marvel canon. Like, if you look at the way I discovered her, honestly, was looking through a kid that I babysit. I was looking through his Marvel superhero encyclopedia. And as a woman who has been brought up in society where your weight matters, I was looking for a Marvel superhero female that had a weight similar to mine. I was just looking for one that was more than 130 pounds. Please, any of these. I was like, if you're a superhero, you're gonna weigh more than 130 pounds because you need to be able to lift things over your head.
I follow a lot of in maybe another part of my life, I would be like one of those not Disney bounders, but like really, like, I love following the women that are like super into the Disney characters, and they like really, really get into it and dressed up, and they don't just like kind of have a hint of it. They like really go all out. And kind of like the vintagey style of it. I love, love, love following them on Instagram. But they're like, so many of the women I follow are like so tiny, like so little. And yeah, that conversation is an interesting one to have with this topic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for like throwing away your scale, getting rid of all of, like, if once we start talking about fitness side of things, people might be like, you're insane, but bear with me. Like, the thing about it is, like, cartoon characters are not drawn realistically, to be perfectly honest. Comic book characters are not drawn realistically. And Revelist has a beautiful article where someone redrew all of some like really famous comic book covers with realistic superhero body types. And it's the same with like Disney princesses. I'm sure there's an artist that's done like Disney princesses with realistic body types. It's so important because like we grow up watching and reading these things, and what kind of messages it's sending us is, if everyone looks exactly the same, they all have the same skin color, they all are the same exact size, like they're all whatever. It's not a great message. It's not sending a great message of diversity, which is why I'm such a huge fan of the She-Ra, the animated series She-Ra that was released on Netflix, because it's so diverse without mentioning it. It's like, oh, our characters are short and stocky. Oh, our characters are in the LGBTQIA community. Like, oh, our characters like this, but they never talk about it. It's just like what the world is, and it's so accepting, and it's such a great like world for kids to be seeing, because it's the world that we live in, right? But anyway, going back to the like Marvel comic book, like I was looking through, and there was not one female superhero that weighed more than like 130 pounds, which I knew was unrealistic because muscles weigh more than fat, blah, 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 whatever. But I found one. I got to one and it said that she weighed 675 pounds or something. And I was like, who is this? And it was She-Hulk. And so that's one of the reasons why I started cosplaying as her, is because I was like, she is a large green woman. And if you're not familiar, so She-Hulk is the Hulk's cousin, except for that. So their powers are very similar, except for that she actually has control of being the Hulk when she's in Hulk form. So unlike Bruce Banner, when Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk, he's the Hulk and he's a giant toddler running around smashing things. But when Jennifer Walters is in She-Hulk form, she's still just Jennifer Walters in She-Hulk form. Like, she has control. And then she can even Hulk out even more if she gets angry and gets bigger and angrier. But she just decides to walk around in her She-Hulk form all the time because it makes her feel empowered. And I thought that was really cool. And then I read the She-Hulk comic book run written by Charles Soule, which I highly recommend. It's the Law and Disorder run. It's my favorite comic book series, and it was way, way too short-lived, so it's not even that long if you want to take a read at it. I actually have a poster of it.
So cool.
Just up there, signed by Charles Soule.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Because I met him. I met him at Comic-Con while I was cosplaying as Poison Ivy the day after I had already done She-Hulk. I was like, damn it. But anyway, long story short, I started reading his version of the comic book, and the way that she presents herself is just so badass. She's just so sure of herself. She's so confident. She doesn't let anyone give her shit. They're like, she gets fired from her law firm. She's like, fine, I'll just start my own. She's not making any money, so she decides to just do pro bono work. She's like, fine, whatever. I'll just work for superheroes, whatever. It's fine. And that's like the type of attitude that I want to have. I don't have that attitude, but it's the type that I want to have. So, so that's why I started cosplaying as her, because I related to her on the fact that she's the heaviest superhero that I had read about. And I also related to her on the fact that, like, I was like, I want to be as strong and confident and badass as you are on an everyday time, like in my everyday life. So I think this was a very roundabout way of saying the place to start when it comes to cosplay is with characters that you resonate with. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy, like I said before. My first time doing cosplay, I was cosplaying someone who was supposed to have green skin, but I didn't paint myself green. I just did a version that felt comfortable for me. And you can do that with anything, because cosplay can be whatever you want it to be. Like, you can go all out. Like, there's a ton of memes that are going around the cosplay community right now that talk about how any cosplayer is a valid cosplayer. Because as I mentioned before, there are some like gatekeeper cosplayers who think they're better than everyone else. Not all of the not all of the amazing like money making whatever cosplayers are like that, but there are some in the community who think that if you buy your costume, that it's not real. But that's not true.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have bought almost every single one of my cosplays. There are people who say that, like, if you can't sew, then it's not good. There are people who say, but the reality of it is that any cosplay is a good cosplay. Like, if you're putting effort in and you're showing up as that character, that makes it a good and valid cosplay. So that's what all these memes are coming out of. Like, if you put effort in, you're a cosplayer. You know, like, if you tried, then you're a cosplayer. Because we're trying to get rid of that negative mentality that you have to make everything on your own. You have to learn how to work with Warbla, which I still don't even know what that is. Like, there's like all these materials that pop up and they're like, oh, did you make that out of this? And I'm like, no, it's actually plastic and some stuff I found at Home Depot. I don't know. Like, yeah, there are people who are sort of like very scientific about it, and then there are people who literally throw it together the night before. And I'm definitely more of the, like, I like to do closet cosplays. I see what I have here, and I'm like, oh, cool. I can build a, I can't think of it, a Psylocke. I can build a Psylocke out of nothing. I can build a Lana from Archer, pretty much from anything in my closet. But like, so I would just say, like, start with what you can. You don't have to You don't have to be the world's best. You don't have to learn how to work with foam if that's intimidating to you. I'm still learning it. I'm learning so much. You can also commission your friends to do things for you, or like trade if you're really good at something and then your other friend is good at something else. Be like, okay, I'll make your crown if you make my wings. Like that kind of stuff.
I love that. There's such a community vibe to it. There's so much like interchanging of art. Like, how cool is that? That is, I mean, there's no other art community that I know of that's like that, that like has that kind of art exchange. And there's lots of, I mean, I found art communities that don't have that like competitive vibe to them, where like people, talk about, abundance and there's enough business for all of us, but it's not the same. Like if we're, because I'm a jewelry maker, so if I'm in a community of jewelry makers, we're all trying to sell our jewelry, and it's like very rare for anyone to buy like anyone else's jewelry. Like that doesn't really happen very frequently, unless like you're the kind of person that makes engagement rings and I'm the kind of person that makes everyday jewelry. But like the regular exchange doesn't happen very frequently in the jewelry community, whereas like with this, it seems like there's so much more opportunity for like exchange of artwork, which is so fascinating. I love that.
Yeah, it's a lot of exchange of artwork, a lot of exchange of information. Like there are so many Facebook groups out there. My favorite is called She Prop. I can like type it in the chat later, but it's called She Prop, and it's literally just women or people who identify as women posting their work and like getting feedback on it or asking questions about it or saying like, what can I do to make this shinier, or like, how do I?
Oh, that's so cool.
And it's just like we're all just here to support one another. And yeah, I love that about the cosplay community.
That is really awesome. So now I want to jump to Geeknasium, because I also really want to talk about that, because I feel like it's connected, and I just think this concept is so cool. So without further ado, can you talk about what it is and the whole community that you've created?
Yeah, so basically when I was telling you guys about getting into She-Hulk in general, I was also starting a very ugly fitness journey. Coming from an acting background, I grew up playing roles that were very matronly, like I was playing the mom or the maid or the nurse, because I was in school and I was able to be cast in those roles because they didn't have older women to play those roles, right? And then when I moved to New York and got into the real world, all of those roles went to the actual people who would play them. And I'm sitting here as a 21-year-old who's never played anything besides a maid, a mom, or a nurse in my life. So it was really kind of like damaging to my psyche to get into the world and feel very rejected by it, because I felt like I didn't have a type. And it's very hard in the acting industry in general. It's changing, but very slightly changing. And it's why I started the podcast that I mentioned before, because it's almost like you have to fit in a certain box in order to be cast in a role. It's like leading lady is always like a tiny blonde woman. Her best friend is like always a quirky fat woman or a quirky like brown woman. It's like always a quirky something woman, right? Or a gay man, right? Like that's what her best friend is. And so it's like you almost have to fit into these boxes, but I felt like I didn't fit into any of those boxes. So I started going to the gym so that I would fit into one of the boxes better.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because it's like I wasn't fat enough to play the fat best friend, but I wasn't skinny enough to be a leading lady. So I started going to the gym, and that's like my very unhealthy relationship with why I started going to the gym, because it was me punishing myself. It was me hating my body. It was me wanting to change who I was. And then when I started reading these She-Hulk comic books, it definitely changed my relationship with exercise, because I would show up and I'd be like, what if I just imagined that I was She-Hulk while I was working out? Like, what if I just imagined that, I was throwing things over my head and lifting
I love this.
and like all of that kind of stuff. So bringing She-Hulk into my workout regimen changed how I felt about my body. I didn't hate it anymore. I didn't want to change it anymore. I was really just getting more curious about like, okay, well, what can I lift and how heavy can I lift? And wow, I think I'm getting better at this. And it really like flipped everything around. And I became a lot more comfortable with exercise that way too, because I feel like I used to always think that fitness was for a very particular type of person over there. Like, you are a fit person. I am just going to stay over here and be happy not doing that. But when I realized that it can make you happy and it can be this like really fun and joyful experience, that's when I was like, I need to do this for other people. I need to incorporate fun things into their everyday workout that is going to help them realize that they can be a fit person too. Like, it's not just for those people over there. So that's why I initially got certified as a group fitness instructor. And I was teaching my own classes and it was all fine and well and good, but it didn't feel like I was getting my mission across. And so that's when I decided to create my own workout program and start designing my own workouts around these things that people are fans of. And so that's where Geeknasium was born. It was like, oh, get it? Gymnasium, Geeknasium, like put them together, ha ha ha. So I formed this workout program that is essentially taking things from the media that people like to consume for fun and theming workouts after them. But Geeknasium has a sneaky twist because it's not just a workout program. It's actually very much a sense of community, and it's very, very much a sense of empowerment that people think they're going for a workout, but what they're actually getting is like a whole lot of self-love and a whole lot of love from other people too.
So like, what's one example of a workout that you have that's part of Geeknasium? Like a fandom kind of workout.
I have a ton. I have a lot of superhero workouts. I have workouts that are themed after the Avengers, workouts that are themed after Justice League. I just did a whole Wonder Woman week. And like, I have a low impact Wonder Woman workout with like no jumping. So those are the types of themes that the workouts have. And then I also do themed recipes. So there's like a Wonder Woman, a Warrior Woman smoothie that I have. I try not to name things after the direct superhero sometimes because copyright things. But
right.
But like, I try to keep everything themed. And then I also do motivational trainings in the workout program where I relate things that are going on around us to ourselves, like what's happening in the world, and I relate it to something nerdy and then try to get some sort of teaching message across. So like, for example, back in March, I was doing a Hunger Games theme, and I did the mini training on what's happening with COVID and being forced to stay home and how it feels in the Hunger Games. And we sort of had like a training about like, well, how do we have the confidence of Katniss to get through this, and like sort of helped people navigate COVID via the lens of like being Katniss Everdeen.
That is so cool. So you've got the Facebook community where people can go and they can get a taste of some of these workouts, right?
Yeah, totally. The free Facebook community is happening right now. And I have a free challenge coming up that's all going to be Doctor Who themed.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that starts on July 6th. So if you join my free Facebook community, you can join that free challenge and you're going to get basically everything I've already talked about. You're going to get Doctor Who themed workouts, recipes, and we're going to do some self-confidence work based on how confident the doctor is all the time.
That is so cool. Yeah. So I really wanted you to talk about that. I mean, not just because like the whole concept is so cool and fascinating, but also in this group, we do the movement challenge. And I love talking about how movement is so important for our creativity. And we get so caught up in our minds and our heads. And a lot of us forget that we have bodies. Like when I'm downstairs in my studio, I will just like work away for hours and hours. I won't drink any water. I won't go to the bathroom. I won't be hungry. Like I'll just be down there like a zombie. And then I look up because something startles me or my husband comes downstairs and I'm like, it like breaks me out of that concentration. I'm like, oh my God, it's like being hungover in an instant because I haven't had any water. I haven't gone to the bathroom. I haven't eaten anything for hours. And I think it's so important for us to be connected to our body through movement. And I love what you're talking about with your program with Geeknasium. I think that's a completely different level, but it's similar in the same kind of philosophy.
Yeah, definitely. Part of the challenge that I'm doing is like why does the doctor move from place to place throughout time all the time? It's because he can't sit still throughout time. Our bodies want to be doing the same thing. Our bodies don't want to be sitting still throughout time. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love it. So you mentioned Instagram. I don't have that on the caption, so if we can definitely put that in the comments. Is there anywhere else that people can find you, or you want them to follow you, or anything else you'd like to promote besides the group and your Instagram?
Oh yeah. I don't really have anything else to promote besides please join the free Facebook community. It's incredible, and I've grown it so much just in the past couple of months. And I'm just like really happy with the community that has been built there. And definitely join in on the free 3-day challenge that's coming up, because you'll get a huge sneak peek into what it's like to be like immersed in the Geeknasium community. And then, yeah, my Instagram is just my name. It's at Heather Boddy.
Okay, cool.
And I do a bunch of the same there. I do like coaching, and you can see all my cosplays. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. I want to leave with the last question that I ask everybody, which is, what does it mean to you to be creative? To live a creative life, sorry. To live a creative life.
I mean, to me, living a creative life is just like showing up authentically for yourself in ways that make you feel good. It's like I'm not doing this for anyone else but me. And I feel like that's how you can truly live a creative life. Because if you're always doing it for other people, it's not going to feel as good. It's going to feel like you need that external validation. You need that something else from someone else, when creativity really lives within you and thrives through you. So even if you create something and never show it to anyone, you're still doing the thing, and it is still giving you the exact thing that it needs to give you by existing. So I think that's really what it means. As long as you're showing up authentically through your creativity, then you're living a creative life.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Soundbite quote at the end. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Heather. If you guys have any questions for Heather, be sure to put them in the comments. She's part of our community here in Creative Life Scholars, and I'm a part of her community in Geeknasium. I highly recommend that you join her community. It's awesome. And again, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, guys. Thanks.